And good morning. I am Tamara Scott. Thank you for joining me this morning. Truth for Our Time is kind of what we've been going with the name of the show. I don't know yet what we're going to call it. I'm just here to get you information. And the name of it was really insignificant to me, but I know we're supposed to do all this branding marketing thing. Thank you for joining us. I just want to say a couple things to you. Yes, I'm political. I am the National Committee Woman for Iowa. I don't often bring that into the show, and I'm not necessarily going to today. I'm saying that because oftentimes we get so wrapped up in the political people, those who are in office, the votes in Washington, and we must be watching it. Lincoln said if we don't pay attention to the political process, we'll be burned. If we turn our backs to the political fires, we'll be burned and suffer the blisters on our backside. And I really think that's where we're at. At the same time, I don't think it was ever intended to monopolize and take over our lives like it has. And I think it's unfortunate that government has grown so big, and as well, the political world has grown so big that it is in our daily lives all of the time. I say that because some of you are tired of it, you're weary of it, you're apathetic. I understand. We're going to talk today again about Common Core. Some of you might be tired of that as well. Others of you, I think, are energized by the fight. You are warriors by nature, and you are energized and motivated by the fight. We're thankful for you, very thankful that there are people like you who are willing to take it on, who are willing to do battle. For many of you, your moms and dads who are just busy, just trying to make ends meet, just trying to get things done. And the idea of always having to be on guard to confront school members, pleasantly or unpleasantly, it's just not something parents want to do, nor should have to do. You are the parent. You are the authority of your child. You're the creature God created specifically and designed to raise those kids. And so it is disappointing that this is where we're at. Today we're going to talk about a variety of topics. We have several guests who are supposed to call in, which always is a little unnerving. Will they actually call or will they not call? But we're going to hear an update from Alice Linehan on the issues that she's dealing with and the ethics complaint filed by a state school board member. And I want to talk about that because I had just written in my notes to myself last night. The one of the other guests we're going to have is Josh Berry is to call in. Josh Berry is the dad who was just concerned about a homework assignment, wrote a note or something, somehow communicated with the teacher and was called a neo-Nazi, was labeled a neo-Nazi, that smear campaign that the proponents of Common Core, and unfortunately in this case, our school employees, our representatives of the school paid for by your tax dollars, are turning against parents. And I think that's my point here is that never were parents, should you have to be on guard or submissive to your local school, teachers, superintendent, principals, school board members, none of it. And I wish school board members would remember, you are not there to be a marketing agent for the school. They have public relations channels. They have the ability to have things in the newspapers. You are there as a representative of parents and students. You're not there to help appease the plans and missions of the school. You're there to be on guard for parents and students and to make sure what's happening is the best thing possible for those parents and students. And so it just seems to turn, and unfortunately here in Iowa, and maybe it's not this way in other states, but in Iowa, the local schools are the largest employer in many of the small towns, the rural areas. There's a problem with that. When government is your largest employer in a community, that's not healthy. And again, this is why parents and city business people will not go against a public school, because they're that largest employer. They've got too much power that they were never intended to have. So we're going to be talking with guests on a variety of levels today We're also going to have Shane Vanderhart popping in. Shane is a local right here in Iowa, but he's also being called upon throughout the nation to speak on Common Core because he writes on it so much and has become quite an expert on it. In Iowa, we had the New Generation Science Standards meeting take place, I think it was yesterday. And Shane attended that meeting dutifully. And so he'll give us a little update on where we're at here, as well as what's happening in some other states. I think Kansas has a lawsuit on the New Generation Science Standards. So we'll touch base with him as well. And also we have MAD. You might go onto Facebook. MAD, Moms Against Duncan. Arnie Duncan made a statement. You know, there's a Bible verse that says, out of the abundance of the heart, out of the mouth comes the abundance of the heart. And I think we give everybody a little grace for saying something they didn't mean to say or saying it in a way they didn't mean to say it. But I think in this case, we really see the mission, the intent, and the heart of this administration. And this is what we're seeing in Common Core. Not that it's an Obama mission totally. It's come out through several presidencies, Republican, Democrat. We can't just blame it all on Obama, but it's certainly picked up steam and gone on steroids with this administration. So we'll be talking about that as well. I want to give you a couple of announcements. Tomorrow is the National Day of Fasting, Repentance, and Prayer. When I was talking to Ryan about this, and Ryan is our producer, and Ryan, I'm always so thankful for everything that you add to this show, but when I was talking to Ryan about this, he said, no, the National Day of Prayer is in May. And that's right, it absolutely is. And I've been able to attend the White House and participate in those ceremonies when the White House was friendly to prayer. This is different. National Day of Prayer is something that was on the heart of a little prayer warrior in Indianola, Iowa. Concerned Women for America of Iowa took this on 6 or 7 years ago, and they've done it every year since. And elected officials hop on board, and sometimes they write proclamations on it. This year we asked them to write a proclamation affirming Lincoln's proclamation 150 years ago. In March in 1863, he called the nation to humiliation, fasting, and prayer. And if you would read that proclamation, it's 97. It fits for today. Take out the reference to the Civil War, and you would think it was written for today. He talks about healing and bringing our nation back together. And so this year, we're honoring and observing that proclamation, 97 from Lincoln. We ask you to join us. And here's the beauty of it. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to have an event. It doesn't cost you money. There are no tickets. All we ask is that on Thursday, the third Thursday of every November, just one day, the third Thursday of every November, it's actually a week before Thanksgiving. So a week before we feast, let's fast and prepare our hearts. Let's before we get into the season of greediness with Christmas and the busyness that comes with it, let's slow down and have a heart of gratitude, prepare our hearts for Advent. It's also after the elections. We purposely set the date after elections so that those prayers wouldn't be partisan, that they sometimes are before an election, but also so that we could have healing. No matter who won or lost the election, God's still in control. He's still on the throne. There's no surprises on his day planner. And so we just ask you to pray for healing. Politically, this nation is more divided than we've ever seen it before. I was in a debate just a couple weeks ago on a campus here in Des Moines, and a very angry professor who professed to be a lesbian, and actually during the debate stood up and said that all the students there would be better off if they were lesbians. They wouldn't have unwanted pregnancies, which may be true, and that they wouldn't have STDs. And I can't say that that's true. I don't know where she's getting her scientific facts on that. And this is the same woman who said abstinence doesn't work. And so I can't say that she's accurate on everything she said, because the only time I know where abstinence didn't work was the Mother Mary. Only one failure recorded in history for abstinence. But anyway, coming back to the healing, the nation is so divided. We are polarized, and I think we can work together. And I bring her up because when they ask, can your pro-life and your pro-abortion sides ever come together? She was no, emphatically, absolutely not. Well, what good, what hope do we have? I'd like to think we can agree on something. If the other side who promotes the thinking that they want abortions to be less, more rare, safe, what is it, safe, rare, and last. I don't know. If that's truly how they feel, surely they could join in with us on some legislation to protect or to slow down the killing of the unborn. The other thing, so National Day of Fasting, Repentance, and Prayer, it's November 21st, tomorrow. How you do it is your business, whether you fast from chocolate, whether you fast from a meal, whether you fast from all meals, whether you fast from TV, or maybe it's something that you're going to do that you don't normally do. But have a heart of repentance and prayer, whether you're in the car, the classroom, at work, wherever it is. And let's, before we say the problems with this nation, let's repent of the problems we may have, our own hard feelings, our own resentment, our own selfishness. Let's repent individually and corporately and as churches for our nation. Our founding fathers called on prayer quite often, and the book from Susie Federer that talks about our prayer, past presidents and founding fathers who called on prayer quite often, and the results they saw, what they believed, the providence of God in carrying this nation through. Also, one more thing coming up, the family leaders bringing in David Barton this Saturday, the 23rd. David Barton, you'll know he's an expert on our history as a nation, and he's going to be speaking at 5:30. Tickets are $40. You can go to thefamilyleader.com. But also, he will give then a complimentary briefing to anyone who's a ticket holder to that event. You may come at 4 o'clock, and he'll give us his briefing on Common Core. He is an expert. If it weren't for him and Glenn Beck, I'm not sure that it would have picked up steam and parents would have gotten on board like they have. So joining me right now is it Alice? Do I have Alice on the line? And I'm not sure I'm hearing out of my headset, so we'll just try it here and see.
Alice?
Good morning, Alice. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for joining us again today.
Oh, my pleasure. It's an honor.
And to let our listeners and our viewers know, you are with Voices in Power, and is it Women on the Wall?
And Women on the Wall.
Okay.
Yes.
And so to give our listeners an update, you were with us last week. You have traveled the state of Texas, which is quite a state to travel. I travel Iowa, and I can't imagine trying to travel Texas on your own dime, and you speak about Common Core.
Exactly. And how it's coming in, even though Texas has said no to the Common Core standards, the Common Core philosophy of education is coming in our state in every classroom, whether it's public, private, or charter school.
And we want to let parents know that even if you homeschool your kids or they're in a private school, like a Catholic school, the Common Core is coming into some of the Catholic schools. Again, there's been supposedly grants coming through that help make that more acceptable. But also, even if you have a homeschooling program for your students, if the ACT, the SAT, and other standardized tests are aligned to the Common Core, it will still impact your children negatively, and those test scores will not be well for your children unless you're teaching curriculum that's aligned with the Common Core. So don't think that you're out and you're safe, even if you're not involved in a public school. So Alice, you were traveling the state, and because you were making headway, the State Board of Education, his name is Thomas Radcliffe, and is he the president of the State Board of Education?
No, he is the vice chairman. Our president, our chairman is is Barbara Cargill, and she's wonderful. She's a mother and a science teacher. She's great. Thomas Ratliff is the vice chairman on the State Board of Education, which they are elected officials.
And so he had filed an ethics complaint against you, saying you should have been registered as a lobbyist. You got good news on that last week.
I did. Over the weekend, I got a letter from the Texas Ethics Commission saying that his complaint and charge had been rejected, and that he had 10 days to refile if he had more evidence, I guess, to try to prove that I should be registered as a paid lobbyist.
And you think, so he has another 10 days?
He has another 10 days. I don't know where he's going to get the proof, and I still stand. I mean, bring it on. If you think, because in trying to expose me, it's allowing us to put a light on him because he not only is he an elected official on the State Board of Education, but he is a paid lobbyist for Microsoft. And Microsoft, there are many contracts that go through the State Board of Education where Microsoft is financially benefiting from the votes that the State Board of Education make.
Okay, two things I want to talk about. I want to come back to him being a paid lobbyist for Microsoft, but I want to touch on something for our listeners and viewers out there. When I was writing a little update on your story for my notes, and Josh Berry is the dad who was labeled a neo-Nazi simply because he called in a concern on this. I had just written, it appears that those who are promoting the Common Core are willing to, in an effort to marginalize opposition, they want to monopolize the conversation and paralyze you. They want to stigmatize you and paralyze you. And I had just written that, and then I saw the article from, and we're going to maybe talk about it later today, Common Core scandal, the medical and disciplinary reports on children have been hacked. And that is from watchdogwire.com out of Florida. And in that article, they said, the utter failure of proponents of Common Core to make rational arguments about this imposed system of inferior psychological workforce training standards, national test, and data collection has stimulated them to lash out and mock and marginalize anyone who opposes it. I was, how you just write something and someone confirms it for you. I was quite pleased that I was right on the mark there. This is exactly what was happening to you. It's happening in our state. When I speak, I get nailed in the newspaper by those who want to propose it, be proponents of it. It's unfortunate that, again, they have to attack the messenger because they don't like the message and they can't compete against the truth. That's exactly what happened against you.
I believe you're exactly right. And, it's interesting because Thomas Ratliff he's been a paid lobbyist since 1989. And it is interesting when you see, and you have to understand, a lot of these people are so financially tied to promoting this inferior curriculum, these standards, this way of teaching, this 21st century learning. They're so financially tied that instinct to lash out becomes very strong. And I think it is we are in a battle. We're in a spiritual battle. We are in a battle for the hearts and minds of our children. And one of the things that we're doing on the ground that is effective, which is what is prompting him to be so scared, is that we are calling on moms and dads and grandparents to give the gift of American exceptionalism back to our children and our grandchildren. And the way that we do that is by going into your child's classroom and saying, can I see what you are teaching my child? And can I see how you are teaching my child? Because that's how we will fight back. There are those of us like you and I, Tamara, that we're willing to be out on the front lines, and that's important. But just as important is for every mom and dad and grandparent to go into the classroom and ask the questions, because that's where it will be exposed, is in the classroom. And it's not the teacher. Many times the teachers are the scapegoats here. They're being forced to use this, and they know it's not right, but their financial well-being, their evaluations are tied to teaching in this new way. And so we have to understand where our teachers are coming from and build a coalition between parents and teachers to fight back against these forces that are trying to push this into our children's hearts and minds.
You're absolutely correct, and I've spoken with a couple of those teachers. More and more teachers are speaking out. Teachers' unions are now speaking out on the Common Core because instead of rigorous standards that we were promised, it's restricted styles, it's regimented standards, and what happens in the classroom is very much the creativity is gone for both the teacher and the student. And when the creativity is gone, oftentimes the love can't survive either. So we actually will hear from some of those teachers in an upcoming show. Alice, if I could ask you one thing, when you started talking about Thomas Ratliff, and you have an impeachratliff.org website?
.com, impeachratliff.com.
Okay. When you learned that he was taking money from Microsoft, we're now wondering in Iowa, who might be taking money, who might be getting benefits, and other states are wondering as well. How do they find out if someone on the State Board of Education or the State Department of Education or even an elected official may be getting money from a Microsoft or another group that will stand to profit somehow off of the...
Well, these elected officials, they have to report where their money is coming from. So, for instance, in Texas, it would be the Texas Ethics Commission. They file all that documentation of money with the Texas Ethics Commission. So you can go there and check your elected official.
But if they're appointed to like a State Board of Education, do they have to file?
I don't know, because in Texas, our State Board of Education are not appointed. They are elected officials.
Okay, see, ours are appointed. So we're wondering if we maybe need to file a FOIA, a Freedom of Information request.
That's it. That's what you can do, is file. And actually, that's what prompted, I believe, Thomas Ratliff to get nervous, as well as we had an online team of parents and grandparents that were filing public information requests to ask, where is the money? Or can I see the money that was spent from our district on this curriculum? And we took that information and extrapolated all that financial data out. We had a grassroots activist who wrote a white paper on it and then presented that to the lieutenant governor and the attorney general and senator, Dan Patrick. And from there, an audit of this curriculum was called by the state auditor, and we had reported on that. And so that we reported that on a conference call we have every Wednesday night with womenonthewall.org. And that next morning, I got an ethics charge.
Okay. Alice Linehan has been my guest, womenonthewall.org. And perhaps if you want to join in with that, you can get on that website and see if you can possibly take part in those conference calls as well. We have to run. Alice, thank you so much for joining us. We have Josh Berry on the hold already, so he'll be online with us when we get back from this commercial break. So please stay tuned and watch these sponsors. And if you know somebody who might want to sponsor the show, let us know as well. We'll be right back after these messages. I'm Tamara Scott, being powered by Webcast One, giving you truth for our time.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I'm administrative manager
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me. But is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
Well, last week you heard us talk about it. You heard us address the video, the dad who simply called and asked about an assignment. And I am so pleased and honored that Josh Berry, that dad, is taking time to join me again. And I want to bid another shout out to Renee Knoll from the Examiner, who broke that story, who then it was carried on by Todd Starnes, and I think the Daily Caller even took it as well. So, Josh, thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I appreciate you taking time out. I also appreciate and applaud you as a dad for being involved enough to know what your kids' assignments were and then caring enough to send a concern. Did you write a note to the teacher, or how did you go about it?
Well, it first started where she brought the assignment home, and I looked at it. I immediately knew. I mean, first of all, my daughter kind of knew something was wrong with it because she couldn't wait to show me. Because she knows I'm kind of on the lookout for those types of things. So I sent an email to the teacher expressing my concerns. It was sternly wrote. It wasn't disrespectful or anything like that, but it was just so obvious.
What was the assignment on? Can you tell our listeners and our viewers what was it about? What was the topic? How did it catch your attention?
Well, it was in our American history class, and it was taught by a literacy coach and my teacher, and it was passed off to me as just an assignment on discovering meaning in nonfiction topics, which was a non-answer when I addressed it to the teacher. But what it was an article from the New York Times, and then on an accompanying worksheet along with it, and it was regarding the government shutdown. And in the article itself, I mean, it vilified Republicans. And there was, when you go through it point by point and quote by quote, I think there was 9 quotes by Democrats, 2 from the opposite side, or it could have been anybody, but 2 from Republicans. As far as there was opinion-based writing in there, it was just completely slanted. And I'm sort of an independent. Even though I lean mostly conservative, but I mean, there's some other things that I kind of go the other way on. So, I don't want my kid exposed to just one side, no matter whose side it is. So I really want balance, and that was really the point of the email. And the teacher responded with an email that was a non-answer. It didn't even address my issues. So basically saying, I'm sorry you feel that way, and that wasn't our intent. It wasn't really a political assignment, even though, and what was interesting, the worksheet itself encourages kids. It's written on the paper, take a stand. And also they had a debate in class over the assignment where kids were talking about government and what they knew about the government. But the teacher still maintains it wasn't a political assignment, yet, the kids are talking about the topic in class during the assignment openly about politics. And, it was just a a BS answer. I apologize, but that's really what I felt.
And you're not the only one. We've had others on this show. Dad, same way, very left-leaning elementary homework assignment, actually on doing away with the penny and how Barack Obama was trying so hard to conserve, and we certainly should help our president out by just doing away with the penny because it cost more to produce it than to have it than it was worth. And we have another mother, Angie John, who will be a guest on this show in the future, and she actually had an Islamic leaning assignment. And then there's another mother, and I can't remember her name. She's on Facebook, and you can do a YouTube. She put the whole assignment on the YouTube. She thought it was so blatantly offensive as to leaning. I think that one was Islamic as well. So you're not an isolated incident. Did they try to tell you that you're the only parent who cares, or you're the only one who feels that way?
No. I didn't get to that. I've had other parents come forward in the school district. I mean, maybe not necessarily from my daughter's class, who have contacted me expressing support. I mean, the support from the community has been tremendous, but nothing specific from any of the other parents. But honestly, I don't mean to sound trite about this, but I don't care. I mean, it's left-leaning whether or not 1% of the parents realize it, or 99% of the parents realize it. So I immediately detected that, and so I just kind of stood my ground on that. And the principal decided to call me, and he basically said that he was offended because I had responded to the teacher after he gave me that non-answer. And I outlined codes of conduct in the Pennsylvania Educators Code of Conduct. I basically went line by line through it and was looking for things that applied to my situation. And I called them out on it. And the principal said he was offended by what I wrote there.
You're kidding.
No. He said, I can remember the quote distinctively. He said, I've raised 4 boys, and I have to tell you that, I was greatly offended by what you said. That's what he said to me on the phone.
That must be one of their... Go ahead.
And he proceeded to tell me that the assignment itself the article itself wasn't biased at all, and that anything that I bring in to counter that is biased, essentially, all in the same breath. I mean, I was just dumbfounded.
Wow. That must be one of their new techniques. Back in the day, years ago, decades ago, when I had kids in the school, it was, you're the only parent who's calling. We've not heard this concern from anyone else, even though there'd be 30 of us saying, I called today. So this must be the new technique, because I've gotten that as well, calling me to let me know of their displeasure, terms like displeasure or offended. And we see that some people call that the Delphi technique, when they make you the aggressor simply by voicing your concern. I have the audio of is it the head of the teachers union then that called your friend?
Yeah, the president of the teachers union got involved, an individual that I had no idea existed. I didn't know who she was. I mean, of course, there's always a head of a union, but I had in other words, I had no interaction. This person had no business getting involved with this situation. She decided to go on a campaign to dig for dirt for me, because their goal, when you challenge them, is to discredit you. And if they can dig up dirt and make you look like a bad guy, well, then your original complaint goes away.
And that's the unfortunate thing in this. I think they purposely do it so that other parents won't. It's to intimidate others into silence and to discredit you.
How can it be looked as anything other than some form of bullying?
Exactly. And that's the ironic thing, is these schools are coming up in our state as well. I hear we'll have a bullying bill in the legislature next spring, which greatly concerns me and disappoints me. That the party that's in control would do this. We don't need a bullying bill. We used to have something that dealt with it quite well. It was called the Golden Rule. We taught it, and kids obeyed it, and we had respect for everyone. To give certain classes special protections is extremely dangerous. And the odd thing is, the irony is, it's usually the school itself, teachers, their philosophy, and I don't mean teachers themselves but the mission and the way things are taught are the bullies. So, Ryan, can we put that video on of the conversation? And Josh, is this what happened next? The principal called you, and then the next thing you hear is from your friend?
Yes. So I got off the phone with the principal, and we talked about a couple other things, but he basically he wasn't going to meet with me until, well, at first he said he wasn't going to meet with me, and then I think he, as part of the legal process that has to go in the school, he had to offer a meeting with me, but we agreed we weren't going to have one. So we're waiting to meet with the superintendent, but I was down that Friday. I was down in D.C. with some friends, and I get a phone call from a friend of mine who had said to me, "You're not going to believe the voicemail that I just got." And she proceeded to tell me, and I, given my background as who I am genetically and, culturally, I laughed when she told me because it was just utterly ridiculous, but it was kind of scary at the same time.
Let's let our listeners and our viewers hear that conversation, then we'll come back and explain why you laughed.
I have a question. We're having some problems with a parent in our school district, and on his page, you are one of his friends. Now, he is a photographer who did Mike and Tracy's daughter, Lauren, Katz, 2 weeks ago or something. Well, maybe that's how, because I know, Mike's your cousin and stuff, so maybe that's why you're friends with him. But I would like to know, because some of it seems like he's a neo-Nazi. I just figured we had 12 mutual friends. 11 of them are Jewish, so maybe he is Jewish. I don't know. Anyway, call me back or text me and let me know about Josh. I think that's his name, Josh Barry, Barry. All right, honey. Thanks. Bye.
Josh, is that the head of the union then?
Union for this school district.
For the school district. And so, can I ask? I don't think this way, and I don't recognize names as certain ethnic groups, so is she Jewish?
She is actually.
And so what was her point in deciding whether, well, first off, the neo-Nazi is just offensive, flat out, a smear tactic.
Sure.
So, but why would she care if you were Jewish?
I think she was maybe questioning whether or not I was or wasn't. I think to her, I was a threat. And because I expressed that I have potentially conservative-leaning views that I want to bring into the classroom to balance out the other side, not silence the other side, she viewed me as a neo-Nazi. This is what I'd like your listeners to understand, is when the left, and they're taught this. I mean, you want to talk about indoctrination. What they're doing to our kids is one thing, but we're dealing with people who have been successfully indoctrinated, and this is a symptom of that. Is when you disagree with them politically and ideologically, they assume that you are a terrorist, you're an anarchist, you're a neo-Nazi. I mean, and I believe that she believed that. Because when my friend got that voicemail, she texted the teacher back and said, Josh Barry's the furthest thing from a neo-Nazi. He's Jewish. And her response was not, "Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you for letting me know." It was, "He went to Bishop McDevitt. He's Tea Party right-wing." So basically she's laying evidence out in her mind that supports her original voicemail theory.
Like you can't be a Jewish person and also a Tea Party person.
Well, I mean, I think the comment about maybe I am Jewish at the end of the voicemail is an afterthought to her, which would be surprising to her. I mean, that would be shocking to her. What Jew has conservative values, which is, to be honest with you, there's more than most people think.
And it's not just, frankly, those more than might people think as far as the Jewish community, in the Black community as well, in the Hispanic community as well, in the college community as well. There are more conservatives, but they know enough to keep their heads down in the world of academia. And in the other areas, they just maybe aren't organized. But there are many more than what we assert or what we assume. So she brings up your Jewish ethnicity, and then also, as you said, they're taught this way. They are taught this way, and we're seeing that this week when an Oprah Winfrey makes the statement that folks are racist and that simply because they don't like what this president stands for, it's for no other reason than they're racist. Or when an Arnie Duncan makes a statement that white suburban moms, why, when we categorize people and we lump people into groups, that's a concern for me. We don't get our rights from a group. We're not empowered from a group, nor should we be. It's we the people, and each of us should have the power individually. And to me, that's a concern when you hear people say that. Understand whether they're Republican or Democrat, when they do that, it's going to marginalize all of us. And so, Josh, go ahead.
No, please finish your thought.
Well, I was just going to say to you, and I want to hear what you're thinking on that, but I'm so pleased that you had the courage to stand up on this and to bring it out, to bring it to the attention of others. And I applaud your friend as well, because your friend could have kept that quiet. They could have tried to handle it another way, but to have the courage then to put this voicemail publicly out, thank you all.
And that's one of the things that the media doesn't really know yet. It hasn't been reported just because I haven't really pushed it out there, is that when this news story broke, Sydney Cohen is the head of the teachers union. That's the one who just left the voicemail your listeners just listened to. When she read that story, she called that friend who gave me the voicemail and blew up on her on the phone and began to smear her publicly on Facebook. I don't know if anybody got any screenshots, basically saying that she needs mental help. Called her up and said, "How effing dare you? Do you have any idea what you just did to me?" And just went on and just, railed against her, which was, again, one of their tactics. And it wasn't only after she got caught where she decided to apologize.
I'm stunned. Here we're going out of time for this segment, and I'm like, oh, this is what we need to hear. So are we getting an exclusive on this show right here that hasn't broken in the mainstream yet? That you have?
No, that hasn't really been released. No, she had called her and really blew up on her.
And so she never even thought to say, "I'm sorry, I overreacted," or "I shouldn't have said that."
I don't think the apology came more than likely after. Well, I know on a timeline after the story broke, but I think probably the union got a hold of her and said, "You need to chill out. And you need to issue an apology because you're going to do more damage the more you talk." But left to her own devices, this is what she did. She called her and, she had texted her and said, "You need help. You need mental help," or something like that. And my friend just, she's a very principled individual, and she's going to tell anybody who's calling to dig for dirt on any one of their friends. She's going to tell that friend. She's going to say, "Hey, so and so's calling about you."
I applaud your friend. I applaud you for standing tall, and I do hope that you'll keep us abreast of this issue. If something changes, if something more happens, please email me. Let me know what's going on. Keep our listeners and viewers in on it, because as you know, as you saw, unless it goes publicly, there is no recourse. These people will not back down. And so thank you for allowing it to go public and allowing your face and your name to go out with it. We applaud you. To me, it's extremely unfortunate. But here's what I want our listeners and our viewers to know. Understand the mentality of this. This is what's happening. And when you hear dirt or when you hear criticism of one of your fellow community members, back away. Slow down. Don't jump in. Don't go along. Even if it comes from someone of authority, like someone in the school, because this is their new tactic. And we are entering a scary time like we've never seen before. And I know I'm never supposed to go back and talk about the Hitler regime or anything else, but I have met people from Latvia. I have met people who were forced to live in the refugee camps, and they talk about how their neighbors were pitted against each other. If you don't give us dirt on so-and-so, we'll take one of your sons to the camp. So forgive me if that offends you that I go back to that history, but history will repeat itself unless you remember it and brace yourself and protect yourself from it. And Josh, that's exactly what I'm seeing, is people turning each other against their fellow man. And that is so frightening to me. We're going to take a break. We're going to be right back. Shane Vanderhart's going to jump on the phone with us and talk about the NGSS standards. And I think, is Meg on the line, Ryan? Do I have Meg there? Okay. Well, we've got callers on hold. We'll see who all we have on hold. We've got messages right now. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Tamara Scott. I get to work at the Family Leader as a family policy advocate. In August, I was blessed to get to go to Glenn Beck Studios and work with David Barton, Glenn Beck, and a host of experts from around the nation in a strategy meeting to stop Common Core. If you're not familiar with Common Core, I highly recommend that when you make your arrangements to come to the Family Leaders Celebrate the Family event November 23rd at the Sheraton in West Des Moines, I highly recommend you schedule that hour earlier out. David Barton's coming in for a special session to teach you about Common Core. It is coming to a classroom near you, like it or not, unless we can stop it. We as parents, taxpayers, and citizens must band together. It is a compromised standards. It's costly. Many think it's unconstitutional, and there'll be data collection on your children into private issues in your home, not to mention the slanted indoctrination. We can't afford not to be responsible. Your children are the only treasures, earthly treasures, that you can take to heaven with you. Join me November 23rd, Sheraton Hotel in West Des Moines, David Barton. The event starts at 5. Our special event on Common Core is at 4 p.m. No extra charge, just good extra information you need to know about Common Core. You can register at thefamilyleader.com. Thefamilyleader.com. Hop online, make your registration today, and tell a friend.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
Well, thanks for joining me. I'm stunned by I knew when it hit last week I was shocked, but I'm actually stunned after hearing it and hearing that the teacher, even after she was caught, unleashed more fervor and hate on people rather than ever saying I'm sorry. Along that same line, now at least Arnie Duncan had the smarts to say I'm sorry, but joining me is Terry, if I'm saying your name right, Swaseville. Terry, am I saying it right or am I butchering your name?
Nobody ever says it right. It's Sawsville. It's like the Wizard of Saws. That's the only way anybody can remember it. It looks like Sassy, but it's Saws.
It does look like Sassy, and I thought that's perfect because Terry is one of the ladies, along with Meg Norris, who started MAD, Moms Against Duncan. And so thank you so much for that. And we only have a short time here. I ran a little bit late with that last segment. I apologize, but just briefly tell people why you did it.
Well, Emmett McGroarty, who is one of the prominent advocates out there with the American Principles Project.
We know Emmett, yes.
He's been saying forever this is a mom's movement, and he talks about the 2 moms in Indiana and the 3 moms in Utah, and he's said several times it's a mom thing. And a lot of the folks on Facebook, refer to themselves as mama bears. And it just keeps bubbling up in my consciousness. And last week I talked with another prominent advocate, and she said, the moms are going to take care of this. It's going to be the moms that fix this. And she said, a father will die for his children, but a mother will kill. And the next thing you know, Arnie Duncan is insulting not only mom in his sexist, racist way, but he's insulting our children and, them's fighting words. So I was seeing all these people that were just furious, and it just sort of came, it just seemed like, somebody's going to do this, somebody's going to do this, and I didn't see anybody doing it. And Meg and I are kind of possums, and we message in the wee small hours of the morning. And I said, we were having a conversation, and just as an afterthought, I just typed in, I'm having a naughty thought. And from there came Moms Against Duncan, and we're all mad. And apparently we're not the only ones, because 3 days later we have 3,200 moms and dads and grandmas and, just people that care.
Unlike Duncan, you're not labeling people and isolating. They don't have to be white. They don't have to be suburban. They don't have to be moms. You'll take anybody. You're all mad at Duncan.
Everybody's mad at Duncan. It is a righteous indignation. We wish him no harm. We just wish he wouldn't be clumsy. And, we're not really happy with the tenor of the apology, so to speak, that he gave us.
Very good. Well, Terry,
but we
thank
love
you.
the fact that he tried, his attempt was to divide us, and instead he's united us.
Isn't that great? And you know what? Again, it comes back to Scripture. And I know not everybody out there has a faith, and I don't try to push my faith on you, but there's so much truth that comes out of the Word. And it says, God can use for good what others mean for harm. So we'll just stand on that, and we'll take delight in that, and we'll watch your Facebook page grow.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yes, that was Terry Sassville. If I'm saying that correct, I'm probably not. It's always going to be Sassyville to me because I like that. And it sticks in my mind. And she's with Meg Norris, and they've started the book, Mad Moms Against Duncan. If you haven't seen his comments, check it out on Facebook. And I cannot find the quote. They've buried that. They've buried the actual footage of him saying that. But there are plenty of stories of apologies and other news sources covering it. Shane Vanderhart, thank you for being on the line today.
Hey, very welcome. I have to say, I am proud to be an honorary member of Mothers Against Duncan. And you can actually find that quote on truthinamericaneducation.com.
Great. Now, is it the quote? Do you have footage of him saying it, or just the quote?
Well, nobody has transcript or tape of him saying it that I've been able to find, but we do have the quote.
Okay. So Truth in American Education, that's one of Shane's websites. The other one, I think you have a new one now, Fight Common Core.
Fight Common Core, yes, with the American Principles Project.
And so Emmett McGrody, when Terry mentioned him, we both know Emmett. We're very pleased to be working with him.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
So I'm sorry for running a little late. You learn your guest as you're going, and then sure enough, about the time you're out, your segment's over, you just find some nugget that is just even more impressive or mind-boggling. And in this case with Josh Berry, it was that the teacher called and bawled them out for having the courage to tell others what she said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that last segment was incredible, and I just the vitriol that we've seen from those who advocate for Common Core and others, attempts to centralize and marginalize education. It's just appalling to me. And we'd like to have a civil debate. We preferred to have had the conversation debate before the Common Core was implemented, but at least not put labels on us and try to marginalize us and diminish us. I mean, we have a legitimate concern, and let's hear it out.
You're absolutely correct. And in the article where they're talking about students' medical and disciplinary records may have been hacked. And I think that's from Watchdog Wire. You can search that out. But she talks about the marginalizing, and I was not pleased to see it, but pleased that I wasn't the only one thinking it. Talking about not allowing parents' input, you attended yesterday the NGSS meeting for the State Board of Education in Iowa, the task force.
Yes.
Did you feel like, again, there was any opportunity to have a counterpoint or input from those who are not pleased with the NGSS standards?
No, and I originally went into the meeting thinking they were going to address concerns, and then later on I saw some of the emails that went out prior to the meeting. It was really to craft their commentary to go along with the recommendation to the State Board of Education and Dr. Brad Buck, the Director of the Department of Education, of the Next Generation Science Standards. So they were hashing through that, and it was just kind of fascinating to watch how many in the room have zero problem with national standards or further centralization of education. They had Mike Cormack, who was a lobbyist with the Iowa Department of Education, in the room as well, and he was giving them some advice as far as words not to use in order to not raise red flags when legislators see this like progressive. They wanted to, originally in the draft they were putting together, they wrote, businesses will see the state as progressive and supportive of building a strong workforce. And Cormack said, yeah, you may not want to use that word progressive. Think innovative or something, but that's akin to liberal to most conservatives, which it's just amazing to me they don't realize that, how that word has been, it wasn't conservatives that took over that word. It's liberals that started using, calling themselves progressives. So, but I found it interesting. They had a lobbyist in there to help them, get the right spin on this document. They asked, let's see, trying to think of her last name, Yvette
McCauley.
Yvonne McCauley, the science consultant for the department, asked, "Do we want to include concerns?" And they're like, "No, that's not. We won't put concerns in this letter." So it's like a 2-page document. I just received it via email, the draft, and then that may not be the final draft that makes the state board, but.
So some things in the public school system hasn't changed, because back in the 90s, this is what they do. Come give us your concerns. We want to hear your input. You'd go give them the concerns in private, and what they would do is use that opportunity to craft, as you're saying, Shane, their argument so they could promote it in the public and have overcome any concerns you might have.
Yeah.
So nothing's changed in that way. So this yesterday was an expense to the taxpayers, nothing more than a PR, promotional setting on how we're going to promote the propaganda of NGSS. Shane, quickly, Fordham Institute, who actually supports Common Core, and NGS is separate from Common Core, and yet it's together with Common Core. It's also very confusing. But Fordham does not like NGSS. Why?
No, they gave it a C, and basically they have 5 what they call significant flaws in the next generation science standards. And I'd encourage anybody to go read, look up Fordham Institute final review of next generation science standards, read it for yourself. But they said there was a lot of essential content that was omitted. They said the grade to grade progression, that was the strength of the NRC framework that this was kind of built off of, was not fully realized in the next generation science standards. The result was that some content was never explicitly stated in earlier grades, and it was nevertheless assumed in later grades. They said the number of key terms like model and design were ill-defined and inconsistently used, and the number of actual errors were scattered throughout. They said recommended practices dominated next generation science standards, regulating essential knowledge, which should be the ultimate goal of science education, to secondary status. And the last thing, they said the articulation of assessment boundaries in connection with many of the standards threatened to place an unwarranted ceiling on important learning. They said teachers can go above and beyond what the boundaries suggest, but with time and resources being scarce, how many will actually teach students, even advanced students, content and skills that they know in advance won't be on the test? So those are the 5 things. And of course, my concern looking at next generation science standards, of course, these things, I see chemistry being diminished. I see they're not the framework's not well defined as far as by course. Chemistry is diminished. I'm concerned as well about the elevation of evolution. I understand the previous Iowa course science standards has evolution in it. But I don't think we need to double down and make it even a more primary aspect of biology, as well as they advance, human-caused climate change, and that's something that I think there's a lot of debate on that, whether climate change is caused by humans and our behavior, or if it's just part of just natural cycle of things.
And Karen Schroeder from Advocates for Academic Freedom, I spoke with her yesterday, and she said part of the problem with this is they change it from methodical science, where you actually have the testing, the repeatable, the observing, the variables, everything's defined, to a consensus science, peer review.
Absolutely, and that's actually, I'm glad you brought up that point, because one of the things they said, and it kind of made my jaw drop, is like, oh yeah, we're getting rid of the scientific method.
Yeah.
And we're teaching the new way to do science, or the current way is how they put it. I'm like, what?
So whatever we all think is what's going to be scientific all of a sudden, and what we're going to think is what they're going to have taught these kids through the other K through 12 grades, and the indoctrination that we're seeing in the Common Core. It all does work together. Shane, we are out of time. I apologize, but sometime when you come back into the studio, and maybe we'll put Karen on the line, and we'll talk in depth about NGSS and STEM. They're separate programs, but they all do come together, and it's just so confusing for everyone.
Sure.
All right. We thank you for what you're doing. You're out on the road and you're talking across Iowa and the nation. We appreciate that. That's Shane Vanderhart. You can find him at Truth in American Education. You can find him at Caffeinated Thoughts. You can find him at Fight Common Core. So we are out of time. We're always out of time. When you start this hour, it's kind of a little bit intimidating, and then by the time you're done, you're hardly going to be able to squeeze everything in. It's a lot of information, and we focus on the Common Core, and I apologize for some of you who could care less about Common Core, but it's going to impact your children, your grandchildren, and your future. And it does impact you as a citizen. It impacts you as a taxpayer. So and as a steward, as a Christian, you should be concerned about truth being hushed and non-truth being promoted to children. We're out of time. I just want to encourage you. It always seems like we're in a battle. Stay engaged. Stay on the front line. Be encouraged and never be complacent. I'm Tamara Scott. This is Truth for Our Time. Thanks for joining us.